Hey, I didn't suck this week. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Podcast, the podcast where you don't have to be Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. I can't even freaking do well in my own pick'em league, Grossi. And today we're going to be breaking down and predicting every single game on the Week 15 slate. Now, last week went 11-3, looking pretty darn good, which means I'm in 1,540th place. That's not great, with a record of 125, 82, and 1. Now, remaining in first place, however, only has a one-game lead is RSG leader at 145 and 62, holding on to that number one spot. Will they be able to maintain it, or will a new challenger approach? So, folks, we have just 4 games left in the regular season until the playoffs, and while this has been an extra long season, it just always hurts a little bit more as we come to the end. But we got a bunch of games here that should be freaking fracking amazing. Starting off with our Thursday night game, you got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the LA Chargers. Both teams, AFC West, showdown for the crown. Lenny, Diego, battling it out. The Chiefs, oh boy, the Chiefs. 48-9, got a little scoregami against the Vegas Raiders. Absolutely obliterated them after they have a group meeting on their logo, and they're like, ha, 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 you died now. The Chiefs, their defense has been a staple of why they've been able to be successful for these past few games. They're on an amazing win streak, and right now they are still holding on to that number one spot in the AFC West. Meanwhile, the Chargers, they're close. They're nipping at the heels of the Chiefs, if you will. Had a great game against the Giants last week. Justin Herbert just tearing it up through the air. Keenan Allen returning, so he is going to be playing on Thursday night, which is phenomenal for the Chargers, as they were definitely missing him and his versatility on that offense. And this is an absolutely huge game. There's so many playoff implications here in a crazy division, in a crazy conference that is the AFC, and I think that this could be a really, really good game. Now, the Chiefs, their offense, a little bit of a hit and miss this year. The Chargers, their whole team is a little bit of hit and miss all this year. Not the most consistent team out there, but recently they've been stringing together a few wins. Are they going to win on Thursday night? I just don't believe in their defense enough. I think that they could. I think their high-powered offense definitely could put up points, but we have to rely on Justin Herbert basically playing a perfect game and that defense being able to contain Patrick Mahomes. So I am going to give the edge to the Kansas City Chiefs to continue their win streak, and even though it's a Chargers home game, we know that that means next to nothing. Following that, you got a game which hopefully will be played. You got the Vegas Raiders taking on the Browns. The Raiders we just talked about, they got the bejesus slapped out of them by the Chiefs last week. Meanwhile, the Browns, man, they're going through some times. They got 17 people on the COVID list right now. Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, Baker Mayfield, Stefanski, their coach, all on the COVIDs. I don't even know if they have an offensive line left. And the Browns, they need to win this game in a chaotic division that is the AFC North. But then again, that whole thing is probably just going to go down to Week 18. I originally was going to pick the Browns because of guys like Nick Chubb, but I mean, they don't really have anybody else. A lot of their weapons are gone. And on top of that, their offensive line is decimated right now. There is a chance that a couple of those folks do wind up playing if they test negative in back-to-back tests. But for now, I'm actually going to give this to the Raiders just because I think them being healthy is going to be better than a completely decimated Browns team. I don't know how the NFL is going to expect the Browns to play. But right now, I am going to pick the Raiders. And from now until Saturday, oh, those negative tests better come flying in. Then the primetime game on Saturday night. You got the Patriots taking on the Colts in what should be a phenomenal game. The Patriots have the longest win streak in the NFL, currently sitting atop the AFC, and they're playing pretty damn well. They just had a bye last week. Meanwhile, the Colts Colts are playing pretty darn well. Jonathan Taylor is absolutely tearing it up out there. Their offense can definitely be explosive, and their defense is nothing to shake your head at either. This should be a really, really good game. They're two ground teams with good defenses, and I think that you might just have a battle here. I'm actually going to pick the Colts to get the W here, and here's the reason why. Carson Wentz, while he does make some dumb mistakes every now and then, I just have a feeling that their offense could be a little bit more explosive, and of course, there's Jonathan Taylor. Now, the Patriots, again, their defense is great. They can beat a team like the Buffalo Bills by just throwing it 3 times. But here, I think they're going to have a little bit more of a tough time running the ball on a decent defense that is the Indianapolis Colts. So I'm actually going to pick the Colts for the upset here, which means that Carson Wentz is probably going to do a shuffle pass to a defender. Moving on, you got the Carolina Panthers taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Panthers, yeah, they're bad. Cam Newton getting benched yet again. They really don't have an answer at quarterback. But wait, a new challenger has appeared. Sam Darnold, their QB, being activated off IR, which means that he is eligible to play this Sunday. Is it going to help? No, not at all. The Bills, well, they had a close game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in which they had a litany of chances to try and put that game away, but a disastrous first half followed by missed opportunities led to them losing in OT. I'm going to pick the Bills to get the win here because, again, I just don't trust the Panthers in anything that they do, and they're just a rough football team right now. So the Bills will have a little bit of a bounce-back game, which they definitely need in order for them to prepare for the Patriots. Then you have an AFC East showdown between the New Jersey Jets and the Miami Dolphins. The Jets are poopy caca. The Dolphins, look at them. They're trying to make the playoffs with their win streak. Just like a litany of other teams, they just have basically the same record as everyone else in the AFC. The Dolphins, their defense is playing pretty well. Their offense is being efficient, and the Jets really don't have anything going for them. So because of that, I am going to pick the Dolphins here. I think they're just the better team, and the Jets, well, you know, at least you have a bunch of draft picks. Following that, you have an NFC East showdown between the Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles. Washington almost staging a comeback against the Dallas Cowboys. And listen, this is when Heineke hurt. Kyle Allen came in. Now Kyle Allen is on COVID protocol, and Heineke can play, but he's all beaten up. So that's going to be a tough look. Meanwhile, the Eagles, the Gardner Minshew saga is a-rolling. Gardner Minshew taking over for Jalen Hurts, but we'll see who they wind up starting. I imagine they're going to continue with the hot hand here. I'm actually going to pick the Eagles to win this game just because the Washington football team is so beat up. Who knows if more positive tests are coming out. So because of that, I am going to pick the Eagles to win, though they should have beaten the Giants a few weeks ago, and then maybe they could have taken the division from the Cowboys. Then you have the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Detroit Lions, in which the Arizona Cardinals, though they won't have DeAndre Hopkins, are going to win this game. Then you have yet another NFC East battle between the Dallas Cowboys and the New Jersey Giants. The Cowboys, as we talked about before, almost blew a lead to the Washington football team. Meanwhile, the Giants, yeah, they sucked against the Chargers. But hey, at least Saquon Barkley scored some points for my fantasy team. The Giants, I was tempted to actually pick them in the upset here because their defense is not horrific. Their offense is. Yeah, their offense is just nothing but pain incarnate. And the Giants usually steal one away from the Cowboys. I don't think they're going to do that this year. I'll be very happy if they do. So I am going to pick the Cowboys to win it here. The Cowboys have been a bit inconsistent with their offense and or their defense. Their defense has looked really good and their offense has struggled. Dak is a little bit in a rut. I would imagine the defense is going to tear the Giants apart. So because of that, I'm going to pick the Dallas Cowboys. Moving on, you got the Tennessee Titans taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Titans, one of the most beat up teams in the league, but Julio Jones has returned, so that's a positive here. Taking on the Steelers, one of the most inconsistent teams in the league. The Steelers, they suck for like 3 quarters, and then they're like, oh yeah, let me play football. And then they put up a litany of points. Almost came back and defeated the Minnesota Vikings last week, but unable to get it done. Meanwhile, the Titans, yeah, they took care of business, absolutely destroying the Jaguars here. This actually could be a low-scoring affair. Ryan Tannehill was pretty efficient last week. Meanwhile, the Steelers, who knows what you're going to get in offense? It's like a Cracker Jack box in which either there's going to be a toy or there's going to be a piece of horse poop. I'm going to pick the Titans to win this one, even though I think the Steelers' offense, when they want to play, can be a little bit more explosive. I think the defense of the Titans are going to get after Ben Roethlisberger and that shady offensive line. So here, I'm going to pick the Titans to get the W, and boy, oh boy, do they need it. Then you have what the hell? You have the Houston Texans taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ew. No, seriously, burn this game with fire. Both of these teams are garbage. One, you have the Texans. They can't do anything. Two, you have the Jaguars, who have a terrible head coach. They're benching their best player in James Robinson. Oh yeah, and they're just all around awful. I don't even know who's going to win this. Do I have a coin? I'm just going to go with the Jaguars here. I mean, Trevor Lawrence can't play any worse than he did last week, but God help anyone who watches this game. Moving on, you got a battle of the bees in the kitty goes meow Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Denver Broncos. Two teams that at the start of the season you wouldn't have expected to be here and in playoff contention, but yet here we are. The Cincinnati Bengals losing a close game in OT against the San Francisco 49ers. The Kitty Goes Meow team battled back in the second half, but was unable to clinch it. Meanwhile, the Broncos took care of business against the Detroit Lions, mostly because they're actually deciding to run the ball now with Javonte Williams. This could be a really good game. It's being played in Mile High, and both of these teams need a win. I'm going to pick the Bengals to get it done, though I'm not entirely confident in it. Playing in Mile High, on top of that, with a Broncos defense that plays well and a strong running game, they could be problematic for the Bengals. I'm going to pick the Bengals to win this just because I want the chaos in the AFC North. So, Kitty, you better go meow. Following that, you have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the San Francisco 49ers. The Falcons able to defeat the Panthers last week, as I rightfully predicted. But yeah, that's the Panthers. There's not really much going on there. But Cordarrelle Patterson, absolutely phenomenal. He's a stud this year, and he's just been tearing it up. Another good running team is the San Francisco 49ers, in which they were able to do real well with some miraculous throws and catches. George Kittle absolutely lighting it up these past few weeks. And the 49ers, well, they need to win this one. They're likely going to make the playoffs if they don't completely blow it and sneak in as that 6th seed right now. I expect that they're going to take care of business against the Falcons this week and get one step closer to probably exiting in the wild card. Following that, you got the Green Bay mother-loving Packers taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Packers coming off a big Sunday night football win against the Chicago Bears, taking care of business in the second half. We don't talk about special teams or the first half. Meanwhile, the Ravens, they're so beat up right now. It's kind of tough to watch. Unable to come back against the Browns. Lamar Jackson getting hurt last week wasn't really a good look. Lamar Jackson's going to be day to day. Who knows if he's going to play, but Huntley is a good quarterback in of itself. He's, of course, just not Lamar Jackson. The Packers, they could have Jair Alexander back. He's practicing today, and that would be a huge boost to that secondary that's already playing pretty darn well, but it would limit the big throws that could potentially be completed or attempted to be completed by Huntley here. I'm going to pick the Packers simply because even though I think this is going to be a close game, the Ravens are just a beat-up football team, especially if they don't have Lamar Jackson. Even though I think it's going to still be close, the Packers have enough talent that they should be able to get away with a W here. And with a win this week, they would be able to clinch the NFC North. So a lot of stake here for the Packers game, trying to hold on to that number 1 seed and punch their ticket into the playoffs. Then you have an NFC West showdown between the Seahawks and the Rams. The Seahawks, look at you guys on a 2-game win streak. You guys winning some football games. It's against the Texans, but it kind of counts. Taking on the Rams, who had a huge win on Monday Night Football against the Arizona Cardinals, and all of a sudden looked like an actual football team. While the Cardinals, of course, shot themselves in the foot a few times, their defense played well, meaning the Rams. And on top of that, Matthew Stafford played a phenomenal game, and OBJ, he was clicking that night. I'm going to pick the Rams to win this football game, though the Seahawks might put up a bit of a fight because the Seahawks, they always play the Rams in a very, very interesting way. So I think the Rams will wind up taking this. And if the Arizona Cardinals, who have 2 tough games left, if they falter, maybe the Rams could still win their division. Then on Sunday Night Football, you got the New Orleans Saints taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In a game that, of course, the Buccaneers should win, there's a little question mark thrown in there. Alvin Kamara, of course, coming back and absolutely decimating teams with his juke. On top of that, the Saints just have the Buccaneers number during the regular season. They beat them earlier this year, and they swept them last year. Of course, they got beat in the playoffs, but we're not in the playoffs right now, and the Saints probably won't even sniff it. Sorry. But the Saints with Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara back, I think they'll definitely put up a challenge. It will probably be a close game. I'd like to think the Buccaneers are going to be up for that challenge and they're going to get the win, in my opinion. However, I am really going to be crossing my fingers that they lose so the Green Bay Packers can hold on to that number 1 seed just a little bit tighter. So I am going to pick the Bucs to win, but please don't. And then finally, to close it out, you have an NFC North showdown between the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. The Vikings, Dalvin Cook coming back from a dislocated shoulder, and good God, that man has so much speed. He is one of the best running backs in the NFL, and it's just awesome for him to watch that. However, their conservative gameplay almost cost them the game last week against the Steelers, and that was pretty rough and should definitely be concerning. Meanwhile, the Bears, who jumped off to an early lead against the Packers, then they blew it in the second half because you never should mock the belt. Here, the Bears, they have a solid defense, but Justin Fields at least was able to run that offense a little bit more efficiently. They should be running with him a lot. On top of that, you have guys like Montgomery, you have Mooney and Robinson. The offense should be clicking a little bit more. Justin Fields will now be 2 weeks back removed from his injury, but I'm still going to give this to the Vikings. I think they have a more talented football team here. They should be able to win this game, but if the Vikings lose, regardless of what happens in the Packers game, the Packers, they win the division, so feel free to lose, Vikings. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. How do you feel about these games as we draw closer to the playoffs? Let me know. You know, find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or TomGrossiComedy on all social media. See down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the patrons over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.